interviewed on Peacock right now. The Huskers able to pull away 28-10 over Purdue. Jeff Moats correctly picking the score on the nose with the KFOR Morning Show pick'em. Just a tire fire first half, fellas. That was hard football to watch. A lot of funny things on social media at halftime. Why am I paying Peacock? Peacock should be paying me. I was in a grumpy mood. Bill Dolman's over. Elijah Herbal's along. Will Wilson rocking and rolling back in the KFOR studios. Chris Schmidt with you. And you're welcome to sound off your thoughts on Nebraska getting their fourth win on the season. Didn't look like it in the first half that was going to happen, but Nebraska regroups and handles their business a much more impressive second half. Numbers to get in on Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens, 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865, and can jump on the stream, Real Red Reaction, YouTube, Hail Varsity YouTube channel, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter, KFOR, Facebook, and Twitter. Elijah, hey, Nebraska seems to be able to run the football when Emmett Johnson is in the backfield. I think that solidified any argument for me as to if Nebraska wants to truly work on or be capable of running the football. Emmett's your guy. Dowdell got the touchdown, but the run game clicked better with Emmett in there. Better first down gains. Dylan Raiola, spectacular as always. Penalty-filled, sloppy in the first half. Special teams, problems galore. As Ed Foley out there working with the long snapper at halftime. I kid you not. Mitch Sherman put that picture out on social media. Uneven performance. Elijah, you get the results you want, but very awful football to watch in the first half.
Let's start with the positive. First off, I was told coming
into
this
Game's over. That's positive.
I was told coming into this one that Nebraska wasn't a second half football team. They can't put up points in the second half. Well, they bucked that trend today, so that's always a positive. You're going to start there. I'll also say the big sticking point from Nebraska's offense today was red zone efficiency. I mean, they almost doubled up Purdue's offense. They moved the ball down the field successfully. They still don't have a kicker. They still don't have a kicker. They still struggle with red zone efficiency, being able to go punch it in because they don't necessarily have that power rushing attack without Mazuka. But at the end of the day, a win's a win, a comfortable win. Yet really outgained Purdue. I think you outplayed them in all facets except for red zone efficiency. So if that's the big sticking point, that's a win. I don't think it changed my opinion of this team and that this team is good. This team is not great. That's an okay place to be. This is a team that can make a bowl game, good enough to make a bowl game, should make a bowl game. That's a start. 7 wins is still on the table for you. Are you going to go compete against Ohio State and Columbus? I don't know, probably not. USC? I don't know, probably not. Does the prospect of Rutgers coming to town next week really scare me? Yes, it does. But we'll leave that for next week. Today's a win. Nebraska gets it done. They clean up some things. I think they got better today.
Mozi, what do you say?
Well, first off, you mentioned the Peacock thing, and I'm going to get on my soapbox here a little bit, and I don't like to call out fellow broadcasters. I'm not going to call them out in particular, but the fact that the sound mixing quality where the crowd mics were hotter and not the play-by-play team was really one that bothered me to no end for most of the game. And, that took me to Twitter to say something. Hopefully the word got to them. Probably not. Maybe they heard from other people complaining. With that said, the first half was like something out of years past to me. It didn't look like there was any motivation for Nebraska on offense. Number one, I think they were, a little sluggish. The defense, I thought they did a pretty good job the entire game, primarily. There's no doubt that the special teams needs work. That's something that's going to have to be worked on quite a bit, especially when you get deeper into conference play with teams like Ohio State and next week when you got Rutgers coming up. But I thought, the second half, once Nebraska got the ball going, especially on the ground, the passing game I thought was going to be a concern today, simply because of what I thought the weather forecast was going to be with the remnants of Hurricane Helene moving maybe over that part of Indiana. But in all honesty, Considering how the weather got better, I thought the passing game looked way better. Obviously, the passing yards 249, the rushing yards at 164. That speaks volumes to how things were in the second half for Nebraska. Much better efficiency, much better intensity in executing the football. When you look at how Nebraska moved the ball downfield, and again, the penalties were a problem for both teams, especially for Purdue. But I thought the second half, no question, this is the same Nebraska team that a lot of us have been used to seeing play this year. Not sure why, again, the first half was such a problem other than sluggishness, or maybe it was a motivational thing, not sure. But I thought, in essence, today, as Elijah put it, a win is a win. And you have to look at it that way. I mean, you're not going to expect this Nebraska team right now to go out every single time and expect a blowout victory. You just can't. I mean, you're in year 2 of Matt Rule. You got a freshman quarterback that's a phenom that has put out some pretty good numbers and played really well. But I think at this point, at this juncture, you have to take this as a win, and you got to move on. Now you got to get ready for a Rutgers team who's undefeated, and they are a very scary football team, considering, they got a win over Washington last night. But I really think that next Saturday's game, this could be a true test for Nebraska to see how they're going to be going in toward Indiana in 3 weeks and Ohio State in 4 weeks, to see where they're going to be at, maybe moving forward throughout conference play.
I would forfeit the Ohio State game right now and save a trip for everybody. Bill Dolman here. Mark Cranack pops in. JP from 96 Kicks is here. Will Wilson checks in.
We got a $7 going? That's
we
crazy.
do. Elijah's reconfiguring the Slim Chickens, 84th and Old Shady, 14th in Pine Lake. Can eat your feelings positively this weekend. We'll go to Bill.
Look at that.
We'll hear from JP, Cranack, Will. Bill, what did you see today? You heard me swearing a lot.
Well, first of all, thank you, Elijah, for moving me out of the Alice of the Brady Bunch Square or the Paul Lynde Square from Hollywood Squares, because I was feeling a little uncomfortable there. Anyway, it's nice to be in the Schmitty Studios and to take in a game from his perspective. And we did put those little kid ties around the utensil drawers. We did lock up the firearms, big Second Amendment guy, but we were responsible with that. All the flammables I've hidden. So yeah, after the first half, there was some agitation for your beloved host here, but I shared it. I mean, it was the first 30 minutes were just terrible all around. The broadcast was bad.
Bill, we lost you, man.
I think that's a Schmitty thing. There it is. Yeah, Schmitty can't shut his mic off.
Yeah, I think the listening to the Purdue band was better than what we heard over the air. Look, that was that. They're going to come back and say a win is a win, and that's what you got to do in the Big Ten. And to their credit, they did it. It was ugly football. I'm not going to say it's all on Nebraska has kickers that have issues because the snaps are bad, and that throws everything off when you've got Nebraska the last couple of years has had very good long snappers. They don't have that this year, so that throws all the timing off on the kicking game. So that's problematic. I thought Emmett Johnson played the way I think Emmett Johnson's played the last 2 years. I think he's been their best running back, and I've been mystified as to why they've not just said you're the guy. I know they want Dowdell to be the guy and that he runs hard and that he's physical. I know Ramir Johnson gives them a different look and a lot of more of perhaps a finesse game out of the backfield with the ability to catch passes. But I've harped on this over and over and over that Nebraska needs a back that's going to get them 8 to 15 yards to pick up a first down or set up a second down and short that you can throw the football and not have a running game that gets you 3 yards on first down and it's second down and 7 all the time. And Emmett Johnson may not be the fastest guy, but I think his instincts when he gets to the line are the best of anybody in that room. And I think because of that, he deserves to get you those 8 to 15 yards. And if he busts one for 25, great. But that's your threat back right now in the backfield to break some tackles and get extra. But Nebraska did a nice job in the second half, especially after Purdue opened up the half with that long drive. I'm thinking, oh, geez, they're going to get the points on the board, and it's going to, really take Nebraska out of any potential rhythm in the second half. But they came back. They certainly utilized the pass interference play calls that Marcus Satterfield has in his playbook. Nebraska had 8 first downs on penalties today. 8 first downs on penalties, and many of them were just throw the ball out there like they do in the NFL, pick on a defensive back like he's a gazelle on the Serengeti, and you get the 15-yard penalty and move the chains. That was Nebraska's most effective play. Throw the ball to a receiver, get contact, and go and march down 15 yards. So good on them for winning. It was not pretty. Rutgers is going to come to town next week, a very well-coached team, 4-0 on the season. That's going to be Nebraska's biggest challenge of the year to get a win in Lincoln.
And let it be known, there's not an easy win in the Big Ten. I don't care what Notre Dame did to Purdue. I don't care what Purdue did last week. There's not an easy win. Just as proof right now, Michigan has allowed 21 points against Minnesota in the fourth quarter. Minnesota is down by 3. It's 3rd and forever for Michigan, and they're probably going to have to punt it back to Minnesota with a chance to tie or take the lead. So that just kind of underscores there's no easy weeks in the Big Ten. Nebraska made it look a lot harder than it should be, though, in the first half with some of the special teams played, the red zone efficiency. But that's just kind of my point here is we're going to nitpick. That's what we do. Husker Nation's not going to be happy. The team's not going to be happy. But you have been able to make improvements this week, figure some things out about yourself, understand how you play with your backs up against the wall, kind of turn it on, and you have a win in the win column to show for it. It's not a loss like last week where it's to the drawing board and you know what, we're going to be down on ourselves. It's okay. You got a victory. It wasn't pretty, but you can improve upon things. I mean, I think we learned a couple things. Emmett Johnson, I think, is your guy moving forward at running back. I think you learned you're not going to kick a field goal this year unless you really stinking have to. You're not going to do that anymore. I think we saw a back to chip on the shoulder type play from the Husker defense today, which might get swept under the rug. Were they perfect? No. Mockabee had too many yards after contact, but it was better than it has been the past 2 weeks in terms of intensity and effort. There's positives to take away from today. Yes, the first half was ugly. Do I ever want to watch that first half of football? No, I never do ever again in my life want to see a first half like that. But you learn stuff about yourself and you got a W at the end of the day, and you can't always say that in Big Ten play.
Will, tackling. What the hell's going on with this football team and tackling?
Yeah, especially in the first half. That was tough. And, but I think about this defense, though. I'm not exactly terribly mad about how they played. I mean, they held them
stopped
3
the run
points.
pretty well. I mean, they
1.6 yards in average.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I gave up 50 on the ground. I'm really not too mad about that.
There were 5 sacks factored into the rushing game. I think they still would have been short of 100 yards, but they would have been closer if the sacks weren't factored in.
I mean, you said it. It really comes down to red zone scoring, and that was terrible.
This game's a blowout if Nebraska can finish the job in the red zone in the first half.
Yeah,
they're up 21-0 probably. If not, we'll call it 17 if you can knock home a field goal, even 10. Like, you have done enough to win that game in the first half alone based on how your defense is playing if you have better red zone efficiency. It was gross to watch, but I think you can look at it as a positive and say, hey, Nebraska's offense throughout the game moved the ball well. In the red zone, they struggled, but if you're able to improve the red zone efficiency, which is easier said than done, you probably win that football game today 42-3.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get to JP and then Kranak a first thought. JP, what do you say?
Well, the fact that we were able to get them 165 yards in penalties, and they only had 50 yards in rushing, that alone says something about not only what Purdue is doing, but also that we need, I don't know, is there an open application for applying to become a Big Ten official? I would be more than willing to apply and get paid to make terrible calls throughout an entire game. That's an easy get. But the fact that our defense is overshadowed by the amount of penalties that we had, the defense was a hell of a lot better. But you can always expect a Purdue game to be just a gross game. It doesn't matter if it's here or there. It's always going to be just kind of a weird, odd type of game that you just have to get through. And if you can do it, you've done it. Get a W in your column and then move on from that.
Kranak, did you go wander in traffic after the first half?
I wanted to take a fork and just jam it into my midsection just over and over. That's just for relief. I thought that could have been good. Listen, that was a tough watch in the first half, obviously. Nebraska's got to clean up a couple things. So empty possessions. I mean, you look at last week, there's 21 points easily wiped off the board because Ramir runs out of bounds, because Nayor's not fighting for the ball, which is a little bit of a trend, by the way. If you notice that with Nayor, doesn't necessarily fight for the ball. If we're going to be nitpicky, good receiver, doesn't fight for the ball. And then there was the other one, the miss to Lindenmeyer. So that's 21 points last week. That, probably 75% of the time that's 7, right? And those were gone. And then same today. You line up for a kick 3 times, makeable kicks, you get none, like 0 points. You don't get a single point. You do have to. There is something to be said though for the pass interference penalties. What were there? 5, 6? I mean, it was a lot. It was like a core part. It was almost like Bielema's fake injuries. I mean, it was like part of their defense was to interfere with the receiver, right? Which made it disjointed, right? If they don't do that, if they just play clean football, Nebraska makes a catch, scores, it might have been a little bit more of a palatable football game to watch in the first half. But I think at least you could say after watching today, I think that's a game that Nebraska could very well lose 2 years ago, right? Maybe 3 years ago, where they start to get tight and things start to get kind of dicey and God.
I think it was Mitch Sherman who tweeted during the game, like it felt in the press box like one of those games where something was going to break poorly for Nebraska in the first half. Purdue was going to have something go right, and then the momentum would be against Nebraska the rest of the game. And you did feel that in the first half. It felt like you were one fumble or one interception or taking one of those block kicks back for a touchdown. Like one of those things away from Purdue realizing, you know what, we can go win this football game and they're going to be in it. That moment never happened. Is that a step in the right direction? I think you could argue. The momentum
they had game control. There was momentum that they went back and seized after losing it. And there were so many moments in that first half where they had a chance to seize momentum and didn't. They missed the kick. They turned the ball over on downs. They kept coming defensively and got a stop. Some stats: Nebraska 1 of 8 today on third down. 1 for 1 on fourth down. Purdue 7 of 15 on third down. But Nebraska eventually would get that bend, not break defense going. 418 to 224 total yards. 161 to 50 rushing. 11 penalties. Here's what I think this football team is right now after 5 games. You've got an undisciplined team still when it comes to penalties. Rule wants to fight somebody still. I mean, he was livid. He's usually stoic. He's usually trying to teach, but he was pissed. And the would-be 7-0 touchdown to Ramir that got called back, which was a horrible call on Fedoni, didn't even touch the guy. He turned and looked for the ball. He ran his route. Even if he was trying to create a rub route / pick play, give him an Oscar. He did everything in his power to not get that flag. So Rule lost it there. You have a situation where Ben Hart's a 6th-year guy, and you're going for it on fourth down, for the love of God, and you're trying to get into the end zone, get out of your own way. There's still too many moments with this football team where it looks like frostball, where they don't get out of their own way. There's a penalty. There's a personal foul. There's a face mask. You still target Hartzog on third down. Every defense in America has done that. And then you have some of your leaders, says a 5'9" asthmatic who's not lifted a weight or tackled anybody for a lot of years. There's too many. You want to talk about yards after contact? I mean, you have some of your 5th and 6th year guys that are missing tackles after a yard or 2 game on the defensive line, in the secondary. Bullock's about the only dude on the team right now that is your sure tackler. Your defensive line has missed too many tackles. So I'm whining here, but it's a lot of what I read and heard through the first half of this football game from Nebraska fans on social media. It needs to be better through 5 games, because you might get your ass handed to you next week. You got Ohio State that looms. You still have Iowa. You still have SC.
You got Indiana.
You got Indiana that looks dynamite. Listen, they need to be at a better spot than they are. The good news is at least they snapped out of it in the second half. And the other good news, got your quarterback, Motzi.
Yeah. Again, Dylan Raiola to me he's only thrown 2 interceptions this year? Is it 2?
Yeah, and they're
can't
questionable. They're more like
Well,
fumble recoveries, right?
Yeah,
Right.
those are on the
Exactly.
receiver.
Granted. Has he had a rushing touchdown yet this year?
No,
I don't recall.
just that first down against Northern Iowa.
But what he's able to do, I mean, he's a true freshman. What he's able to do, he looks like he's been a veteran of this system for the last 2 to 3 years. And again, he's a true freshman. He's a special player. And for Nebraska to get him, especially when they flipped him from going to Georgia and coming to Nebraska, and I mean, the sky's the limit for this kid and what he can do under this system. And I know there's a lot of people out there that say, I'm still seeing the same crap all over again. They're still working out a few things. Yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking, but I think they've made some progress even this year compared to where they were a year ago. Now, 5-7 a year ago was a vast improvement for where they were under Scott Frost. And they were making some headway, but they went back to their old ways. You remember a year ago, where were they? They were 5 wins about halfway through the season, and they couldn't get the 6th win. I think now they're in a much better spot to where they could try to get at least the 6 wins to become bowl eligible. I still think your goal is 7, maybe 8 wins right now to really make things solidify even more and to make that turnaround and get better from there.
We'll hear from Matt Rule, and he was asked about the unsportsmanlike penalty he received throwing his headset, and he was pissed about the
hold on Banks.
The Banks holding call, which wasn't a hold. It wasn't a hold, and then it was after the fact that they dropped the flag.
It looked like a hold. Yeah, he was inside. He was clutching.
He said, "No, I'm going to fight for Nebraska." For lack of a better. Someone here's got to fight for Nebraska. I'm going to fight for Nebraska. He is beside himself, not whining for calls, not lobbying for calls, Elijah, but he's beside himself at the incompetency that they put on the field from time to time, officiating wise.
And that's back-to-back weeks now that I don't like Matt Rule's sideline demeanor whenever this Nebraska team is penalized. You and I got
some of it's them and some of it's bad officiating.
Well, how do you are the person that wants to keep your team from not losing it in that moment. They look to the leader in that moment. Whenever a penalty goes against you, you want your team to be locked in and say, you know what? We don't care. What's next? That's the team mantra. But whenever you have your head coach,
another flag, that's what's next.
Whenever you have your coach on the sideline, though, screaming and getting personal fouls called and losing his cool about calls, that trickles down through the team. They're going to think, you know what? The refs are out to get us here too. I need a head coach that is going to be stoic on the sideline when things don't go the way, because you already have a team that's mentally fragile. And if you have a coach on the sideline that is screaming and kicking and doing whatever he can, trying to tell those refs, I don't like that call. It's the trickle down effect through the team that I don't like it with the team that already has a fragile mentality. You have a point. That call is horrible, but you need to be the bigger man in that moment.
I agree with you, Elijah, from that standpoint. Obviously, leadership for Matt Rule, you got to conduct yourself in a proper manner. I will go back to that offensive pass interference call against Thomas Fedoni, and even looking at the replay, and I think Matt Rule had a legitimate complaint and reasoning why he wanted to have that thing reviewed. I mean, it was blatantly obvious on some of the angles. I don't know what they saw on the field. I don't know what they were seeing from where the office is, either in Los Angeles or New York or whatever, where they would do the reviewing too. I didn't see any sort of contact from Fedoni that would constitute a pass interference, but I see Matt Rule's point there, and he had a legitimate point. There was no contact, and I think that's what really frustrated him more than anything. I think at the same time, he's trying to fire his team up because they just had a very lackluster performance in the first half. Bottom line, there was really no intensity, no emotion or anything. But I think consistently, you're right. Matt Rule should not get to that point when conducting himself with the officials on certain calls or any calls on the sideline.
And there's people. I have 2 things to say here before I let you jump in, JP. The first being, I liked actually how Matt Rule handled that review on that pass interference, because the refs, the Big Ten Control Center, they have no power to go overturn the judgment call of the contact. The only thing they can review there is whether or not Ramir Johnson was behind the line of scrimmage or not. So if it's behind the line of scrimmage, that's not a judgment call. They can overturn it, and there's no offensive pass interference. But I liked the strategy there from Matt Rule, because I think he's saying, review it. You're not going to overturn it. I just want you to go see on that little screen how wrong you are. And that's the mature way to go about handling it. That's the way to do it. There's ways you can talk to the refs and fight for your guys without being completely over the top on the sideline. I just don't like the message that sends to an already mentally fragile team. I get it. You want to fight for your guys. I think there's other ways to go about it, because it became a theme from Matt Rule throughout the game. And when you have a group of potentially mentally fragile 18 to 22-year-olds, if you see your coach complaining, it creates that victim mentality in yourself. You know what? The refs are out to get us this game.
Do you feel better or worse? We'll go around the horn. JP, you jump in with your comment. We'll go around the horn. You start, JP, Billy D, Mark. We'll get some interaction here with that. But do you feel better about this team moving forward, or are you feeling worse based on what you saw, or kind of the same? 489-1240 can chime in here on Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens. And 14th and Pine Lake, 84th and Old Shady. Get to Slim Chickens today. Wings, desserts, chicken fingers. It's glorious food, as we're with you here on Real Red Reaction and KFOR, KFORnow.com. JP, it's interesting with where you side on. Do you lose it, or do you hold it in if it's not going your way with the Zebras?
And that's the thing, is I will say this, and to just combat and be a little bit counterpoint with Elijah, I think Matt's held it in for the last two games. This was an opportunity on a very spotlighted game to show there was almost 300 yards in penalty combined in the two teams. This was a chance to put a spotlight on how bad the Big Ten officiating has been throughout the entire season with all of the teams. This is a chance for Matt Rule to play that card, and then, of course, the sideline say, guys, don't say a damn thing about the officiating. I got this. I'm going to put a spotlight on this today and use this platform today to make this point. And because he used that with almost 300 yards in penalties, that will hopefully, we never can count on it because it's the Big Ten, put a light on how bad the officiating has been all season long throughout the entire league.
Bill, what do you say?
Well, first of all, going back to what you talked about with the first half comments from Nebraska fans, Husker fans on Twitter, when they're sitting on the ledge or heading into the bathroom with a toaster, are really, really amusing.
Whoa.
Okay? I mean, that was some funny.
Bill asked me where to keep the toaster.
That was some pretty funny stuff. Okay, so I just hats off to Husker fans who are creative in their angst. I'm not sure there's another fan base that has that ability to put all that together, 140 characters, the way Husker
10
fans
years of practice
are able to do. So that was pretty good. Look, with Matt Rule, when a basketball coach does that in the heat of the battle, and they say, well, look at Fred Hoiberg trying to fire up his team, getting a technical foul in that situation. He has that enough. Most of the time, announcers or whoever will say, oh, that's a great job. Let's see if that turns this team around. And to a certain extent, I think that's a little bit of what he was trying to do. I agree that you can't overturn that pass interference penalty other than if the ball was caught behind the line or not. But I do think that there was a message being sent, like, we had a guy get his arm pulled in the first quarter last week against Illinois that cost us. We've had a few too many of these things, okay? I've sent you the letter last week. You sent me my admonishment privately. Because that's what happens after the games. They will send in their grades. They will send in their questionable calls. They'll have the league review it, and then they'll get their findings back. And sometimes they'll say, yeah, you know what? You were right. That should have been interference. Or, yeah, I know that should have been a penalty when Banks got dropped in overtime in your bench. But, we're going to keep that amongst ourselves. I think this was, one of those situations where Rule took the opportunity to, I want you to see how bad that call really was, because I'm going to want to call at some point later on in the ball game. You're going to have to make it up to me, okay? And it's not going to come next week after I send my letter. So maybe there were a couple of pass interference penalties on Purdue that got the flag because the one was missed in that first quarter. And then getting the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty in the second half when your team's got the lead. I think all of that was fairly strategic. Now, he's got to get his team, regrouped. You can't have a first half like that next week at home against Rutgers, the way Rutgers is playing. Greg Schiano, I'm sure, was watching today's game quite closely in terms of what Nebraska does with its running game and what they need to do to get pressure on Raiola. And as much as Nebraska doesn't have an efficient and consistent ground game, I told Schmitty watching this, I said, for the most part, that offensive line does a pretty good job of pass blocking. Mm-hmm. Raiola has a significant amount of time to check down to receivers. I love his arm angles. He had a lot of times he'll throw that sidearm Mahomes delivery, but he had a throw over the top on a short pass to the right side. I think that was in the fourth quarter, just the arm angle, the changes, and the way he's able to see the field. And a lot of that he's able to do is because he has time to throw, to find the open guy. Somebody eventually gets open. So that's a whole lot thrown into one dissertation here. But kudos to Nebraska fans for your creativity. There you go.
Yeah.
I think, Mark, you have a take here? Because I do have a different topic I want to bring up here. We have a quote from Anonymous, but if you have something you want to add on that, feel free.
I was just saying, we're going to go to Kranak, and then we got a call to get to here with Real Red Reaction. Steve's on the line. Kranak, what do you think?
With Rule's sideline antics, you think we'll get a comment from the chancellor tomorrow about how that went? And that'll appear in the media, or maybe are those days behind us? Those could be behind us. I'm not sure.
Harvey Perlman tweeted.
It feels. I think we've lost Steve. So
Bill, I'm so glad you brought it up, and we talked about it on the pregame show this morning too, just about Nebraska needs to get Emmett Johnson the rock.
Yep.
And it's also okay to keep him in 2 plays in a row. Like, you don't have to take him out after he gets a big game. You just don't have to do that. And I think the prescription for Nebraska, because look, you're 5 games in at this point, right? I mean, you're about to march right into the teeth of Big Ten play. There's not a single gimme win left. I don't believe on the schedule at all yet. There's probably 5 toss-ups and 2 probably nots. The prescription for Nebraska, I think, is going to be, I think you got to shorten the bench a little bit. I think you got to look for some continuity. Nebraska had 5-6 guys line up at tailback today, if you include Harburg and Carter Nelson, right? Gabe Irvin got his first carry out of nowhere. Dowdell got some snaps. Ramir Johnson. It's too many.
Carries, yeah.
It's too many. Right? It's just I just don't see how you can have it'd be 6 because all 4 backs played.
Ramir got a couple handoffs.
Yeah. All 4 backs played, plus you hand off to Carter Nelson, plus you hand off to Harburg. And while I appreciate the ingenuity and the creativity it feels like they're still searching for their pet plays. Like what are the things that are just that you just hang your hat on and is just kind of a hallmark of Nebraska besides Raiola throwing another damn dime? Because that dude can throw. I mean, he is your continuity, but I think there's too many moving parts, and I think that's why you're seeing your procedural penalties. I think that's why you're seeing it's just there's not a lot of continuity on offense right now, and I think that's something you could do by maybe shortening the bench a little bit.
One of the things that I think has changed with Nebraska finding a bread and butter offensively is the loss of Mazuka, which I can say I don't think we're going to see him back this season. Nebraska had a bread and butter rushing attack with power and counter off that right side where you had Justin Evans pulling around. You had a tight end pulling around. You had Mazuka and Ben Hart down blocking and really creating a lot of movement. I think that was your bread and butter in the rushing attack, and I haven't quite seen that since. I think you're going to have to adjust with that. But what your bread and butter is right now, I think, is Dylan Riley go out there and make some plays for you. That's what your bread and butter is offensively.
Probably.
Emmett Johnson showed me a lot today in terms of being the guy moving forward. His ability to go pick up 5-6 yards on first down changed a lot. But, are you going to be able to do that behind an offensive line that doesn't have Mazuka moving forward? That's a big concern for me because Mazuka, I felt, was an all Big Ten type of guy.
You're down 3 starters or close to it starters in the offensive line right now. That's tough. That's tough. And we should acknowledge that for a team that already probably wasn't going to be great running it, but it feels like they should be a little better. And you can hopefully do that by giving Emmett the ball a little more often. Dowdell still has a place in the offense. So does Ramir. Gabe, maybe. But shorten the bench a little bit. You don't need to hand off to Carter Nelson from the 1 or 2. I mean, it's just,
That was fun.
it's cool. I appreciate it. I know he was a state champ high jumper and all that, and so I understand why. But it's just sort of like, just because you can do it, it doesn't mean you should. And I feel like every play on earth is on the table for them right now.
Well, it
And
feels
they probably
like,
just need to dial it back a little.
guys, it feels like we gotta make sure Timmy gets his touches. I mean, everybody, this is Y ball. I mean, I got to play 2 quarters. Shouldn't have ever stepped foot on the court growing up, but paid my money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it feels like. And listen, at least they focus in on getting Ja'Cory the ball. I mean, he is a difference maker for you on offense.
100%.
And let's quit jacking around, if you're a Nebraska fan, with this merry-go-round at running backs.
Yeah.
And I like Dowdell, but if I see him leave his feet again, man, I'm going to lose it, because they're just waiting for another fumble. I mean, Walter Payton did it great, and he's about it. Going over the top. Emmett's your guy. AZ Husker gummies would have come in handy during the first half.
He must be talking about Ollie. Must be talking Ollie vitamins. Is that that's what he's talking about?
the gummy multivitamin. Yeah.
No.
You're focusing on
Colorado vitamins.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Colorado vitamins.
I just Colorado vitamins. That's actually a great brand name. I'm going to actually see if I could buy that domain right now.
If you would have stumbled upon the Colorado vitamins in a state where it's legal, you're probably the one Husker fan not upset about the first half.
Colorado
pretty
vitamins.
mellow.
By the way, Colorado Vitamins is available online.
Yeah, I was just saying, like the site can't be reached because it does not exist.
Vitamin THC.
And Cranek's like, not yet.
Vitamin CBD.
Colorado vitamins.
489-1240 to get in here
The
on
problem
Real
is,
Reaction.
We have created this perfect domain and brand name in front of thousands of people that could also steal this and take it before you have a chance. So you got to act.
Copyright Bill Dolman
Quick,
2024.
Now we have the shout out. Brandon checks in. This was a step backwards, no matter how you try and spin it. I absolutely agree.
Really?
I don't agree with
No,
that.
I don't.
I don't
No.
agree with
That
that.
first
No.
half.
That was a
Nebraska
step back.
treaded
First
water
half was
today.
a step back for the game of football.
Well,
Yeah, right.
this falls
Yeah.
under the umbrella.
Yeah. Listen, Nebraska treaded water today. They didn't step forward. They didn't step back. They just kind of survived, advanced. Here comes next week.
I guess
They stepped forward in the final quarter and a half of the game. That's where they stepped forward.
Mhm.
And when we may hear from Matt Rule here in his post-game presser, if we get to it, we may find out what happened in the first half, what the mindset was like. Were they just in a simple funk? Were they not motivated enough?
They had the running back in.
What was something in place that wasn't working? I mean, hopefully we find out from Coach Rule. But I thought, especially in the final quarter and a half today, it was a step forward, especially after what happened last Friday night in that overtime loss to Illinois.
Roger, in the stream, any field goal kickers in the portal, and Bill, you touched on it earlier, and I think it's such a great point that you have to reiterate. Two of those kicks you cannot put on the kicker today. The first snap was into his hip, and so he had to grab it from his hip. He had to bring the ball over. Like, by the time he got it down, the timing's all completely off. 42 yards, you miss it. And then the second one, you saw great catch by Buschini to prevent that thing from even going past them, and that could have been a Purdue ball. So 2 terrible snaps. What you need in the portal right now is a long snapper, or just somebody.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that if either of us practiced for a week straight, and you had loose hamstrings, because that's
Long
it
snapping?
might be kind of tight. Yeah, I just feel like it's something.
No. I tried to long snap in high school, 2 years of practice, and I got booted off in 1 week after a couple bad snaps. That is an impossible task.
Why
2
did- why
years?
did you
I've
say-
got
why-
3
why did
years of
you-
eligibility. I can do it.
Why did
Bring
you have the bad snaps? I'm serious on this.
It's just a difficult job. If you try to do both punting and field goal kicking, 2 completely different snaps that people go, oh, well, it's long snapping, but the way you hold the ball is completely different. The power you put on it, the rotation you try to get on the ball, and you have to be pinpoint accurate every single time while there's somebody lined up, maybe not in your grill, but in front of you, and you got to focus on blocking as well. Just a very difficult job to get right. It doesn't help that I'm fat and inflexible, so That's never a
But
good thing for long snapping.
That's
This
a
is-
t-shirt
this is
right
not-
there.
This
if
isn't
Elijah's
vac-
fat, what am I?
This isn't
Right?
vacant lot.
Seriously.
This isn't vacant lot football either, Elijah. I mean, where you just snap it. I mean, there is a proper technique that you got to have to do that, and it does seem like it can be a difficult thing to do, and that's why they practice it quite a bit.
Not to mention, you're throwing it as hard as you can between your legs, because if you don't throw it hard enough, then the rush has time to get there. Like, it has to be
Right.
a crisp and powerful snap, which really lends itself to not being accurate. It's a difficult thing to do. So I will stand up for long snappers as somebody who tried to do it and could not do it.
I'm just saying, that's like, how many teams have you covered ever where it's just like, that's the problem? You're like, there have been a lot of football teams that have figured out how to find a scholarship snapper, and then even people that are getting paid for it in the NFL. Like, there's a lot of humans walking around that have figured it out. And it's just all of a sudden you're covering a team that can't snap a
But
kick.
this
You can't
takes me
kick a
back
field
to-
goal. Like, field goals aren't allowed now because
This takes me back to the 2020 season, where it was just like, how can Cam Jurgens not snap a football? He's been a center for 3 years now, and he can't get the center quarterback exchange. It takes me back of like, how can you not figure it out? But I think it just reiterates that it is a difficult thing to do at a high level whenever you have Division I athletes trying to come murder you every single play, trying to do a very technical job.
totally. How come
Well,
every
that-
other team in America has figured it out, though? Is what I'm saying.
Fair. That being said, I saw enough today to show me
Yeah.
I don't want to see the field goal unit again this season.
All right. Yeah.
We'll get to Matt Rule. We'll get to Dylan Raiola's comments. Bill Dolman's here. Mark Ranak's here. JP from 96 Kicks is here. Will Wilson. We got the whole party going. Will Wilson and Jeff Moats is here. Elijah Herbal, Chris Schmidt. It's Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens. 14th and Pine Lake, 84th and Old Shady, where you get your Slim Chickens, and Skylar nails it. Moving forward, the good, the bad, the ugly today. A lot of ugly in the first half. The good, Emmett Johnson, that defense in the second half. The bad, though, penalties continue to persist for this team. And can they keep rounding into form as you're now 2 games into the Big Ten, and it gets real? I mean, it gets ranked Rutgers. It gets ranked Indiana coming up, and then it's Ohio State. I mean, they have yet to put together 4 quarters of football. I just don't know. I'm still unable to fill in the blank on how good this football team is. I know they got a good quarterback. I know they got a good middle linebacker. I know they played better against the run. I still see too many missed tackles. That if that's going to happen before you clean it up, you may be out of the game. We still know that the field goal thing's a nightmare for Nebraska.
You can't count on it. You can't count on it. That changes things. That changes things as an offense when you now consider that you're pretty much 4 down as soon as you get to the 30.
How many points has Nebraska left on the field this season? Between penalties and missed kicks and just getting in their own way. I mean, that is a poison you're trying to extricate still with this football team for whatever reason. I mean, I don't get why it takes them, and I don't know this, but I would bet there was some edict in the second half to get Emmett in and carry the football, because voila, he appeared. So
yeah.
Will, you've been awfully quiet over there. Are you more positive, more optimistic, or pessimistic?
Will's like, when can we wrap this bad boy up?
Will's been looking forward to Matt Rule audio. He's been over there.
They get half off at the tavern.
Yeah, and there's an Oktoberfest event downtown that I think we but I don't know. It's an interesting question. That first half, no, you're not happy about really anything that happened in that half, other than the O-line gave Raiola, I thought, a decent amount of time to throw. I mean, that's a plus on the O-line. But really, Schmitty, I see why you're perplexed and don't really think it's a step forward. But in the second half, you found a way to win. Mark, I like what you said, that this was a game we'd lose 2 years ago. I mean, reality, hey, 2 more wins built full game.
Did you guys think
two more wins until we're in Vegas sipping pina coladas at the Vegas Bowl?
There you go.
Did you guys think they were going to botch this?
So I was following the win probability on ESPN.com throughout the game, and I was screenshotting it just in case, because
as you were live betting,
it dipped to, I think when Purdue was up 3-0, it was 52% at that point. Like it was a pick'em game at that point, according to all the math and analytics and whatever. And then gradually that started to go up. And it's kind of funny. It's kind of like looking at Nebraska fans' emotional curve at the same time as you were looking at the win probability. It's like, that's pretty accurate. Yeah, that's about where everybody is right now. So yeah, I mean, how can you be feeling good after 3 kicks that, I mean, 2 of them are blocked, 2 of them are snapped horribly. The other one is just a shank. You're just like, what can you count on? You got to be able to count on something. And so, yeah, it was a concern. So, but it was a Paula Abdul game, right? It's 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. You're at the same place. You're at the same place you just were, right?
Hello, 1989 called. Speaking of 89, and
how come you all
kicking,
knew it? How come you all knew it?
Because we grew up in that era. Speaking of 1989 and kicking, I'm going to pose this to Bill Dolman. Do you think Greg Barrios or Chris Drennan have got eligibility left to come back and kick for Nebraska?
You've been keeping that Greg Barrios in your back.
That's going old school. I think for Kevin Seibel, most of those kicks are makeable.
Kevin Seibel, there you go.
Give me Dale Klein.
Billy Todd,
give me Dale Klein.
Rich Sanger is nailing those bad boys.
Dean Sukup.
We got a comment.
Great kickers of Husker history today on Real Red Reaction.
Scott chimes in. I disagree with most. I love this win, how they won it, and how they dug deep to overcome a ho-hum first half.
Well, to me, it's like fine detail, Shmi, not to cut you off here, but how different does this game feel if you can knock home a couple of field goals and your third down efficiency is closer to 50%? How different does this game feel? How different is the final score? I mean, you went out there and rushed 5 yards per attempt, 32 attempts, 161 yards. Combine that with 244 yards in the air, 9.4 yards per attempt. You win the time of possession barely. I know you have 11 penalties for 94 yards, but that's nowhere close to Purdue's 13 for 165. You have 25 total first downs compared to Purdue's 12. You look at the stats, you dominated this football game. Where you just left room for improvement is getting points in the red zone and picking up third downs. If you can do those 2 things, this game is not close. This is a blowout.
Art Kranak is known for doing radio with me and Saturdays for damn near 20 years.
Yeah.
And the one
I worked with Mark. Mark and I worked in a previous radio live together.
Yes, sir. We held it down, Joe.
Let's take a time out. Will, what are we looking at commercial-wise? Because we've gone 47-minute filibuster here.
Yeah, we'll take a break. I got Rule audio ready to go. I got Rayola audio.
I got to go eat my feelings. I appreciate y'all.
I don't. I've never gotten a question from Jeff on this. I do tend to go.
Kranak is on his way to Slim Chickens.
That's right. Exactly.
14th and Pine Lake, 84th and Old Shady.
I'm just gonna have to throw chickens into my mouth from behind the counter. Yep.
Told you. So you're out, Kranak?
I need to. Yeah, I need to get out. I appreciate y'all letting me on.
To do.
Yeah, just eat my feelings.
Go celebrate the win, Mark. Come on.
That's what. I didn't say they were bad feelings. They're mixed feelings. They're mixed feelings.
Great way to put it. Great way to put it. We'll take a time out. We'll be back with more Real Red Reaction. 489-1240 or 800-825-5865 can dial up. JP is here. Bill Dolman here. Jeff Moats, Elijah Herbal, Mark Kranak, Will Wilson, Chris Schmidt. And real quick, Elijah, do we have an update on the mother of all parlays? You're muted, Big Cat.
That's a Will thing. Yeah, we're 3 for 4 right now on the Hail Varsity Radio parlay of the day on a Friday. We've had Indiana and Maryland has gone over 51. Kentucky won outright against Ole Miss.
Yeah.
16.5 like it was nothing. Their defense is spectacular. And not to mention Rutgers covered last night with their victory over Washington. So we're a Georgia win away from splitting $500, Schmitty.
Ding, da ding, da ding.
I should have said that because I just ruined it. But
we're gonna let it ride.
Too bad Alabama's gonna win, but well, you guys can dream.
All right, time out. Back with more Real Red Reaction. Matt Rule on the way. Thanks for tuning in to KFOR, KFORnow.com. Back with Rule on the way.
Was looking tired. The sparkle was gone. I wanted to update it, but I didn't want to spend a fortune and turn my home into a construction site, so I needed some guidance. My friend told me to go to Handyman.
You've got your very own Handyman
to help remodel your home. I couldn't believe all the mirrors, lights, and accessories they had on display in their showroom. Man, was it handy being able to walk through the showroom with the help of the handyman staff.
Make your bathroom the best reflection of you.
Contrary to popular belief, it doesn't always take a wrecking ball to update your ugly bathroom.
Replace your bathroom light bar, mirror, faucet, and towel bars without breaking the bank or the walls.
Come in and see what's trending at Handyman. We have dozens of mirrors and lights in stock and on display. Just pick one out and take it home.
Grab coordinating faucets and towel bars, and you can DIY your bathroom in one weekend.
During September, save 10% on all mirrors and light bars and bring a new sparkle back into your home.
Under the arch on Sun Valley Boulevard, Lincoln.
There's just nothing like live music. It has the ability to motivate, inspire, and enhance a moment, a night, and a lifetime like nothing else. Treat yourself to a live music escape or give someone you love the gift of a concert experience. Check out the complete lineup of upcoming shows at PinnacleBankArena.com and review the list of acts scheduled to perform outdoors this season at PinewoodBowlTheater.com. Behold the joy of live music and immerse yourself in spectacular sights and sounds at Pinnacle Bank Arena or Pinewood Bowl.
Are you in the housing market? Whether buying or selling, a roof inspection can make or break the deal. This is Matt Berkey, co-owner of Golden Rule Contractors. With all the storm damage this season, the last thing you need to hold up your closing is a damaged roof. Our name is our promise. We work with buyers, sellers, and realtors. If you need a new roof, we'll get it done right without all the hassles. So contact Golden Rule Contractors for a free real estate roof inspection. We treat your real estate deal as if it were our own.
Nebraskans are proud of their public schools. Hi, I'm Tim Royers. As a Nebraska Teacher of the Year, I traveled across the state and saw the value public schools bring to our communities every day. They're where our kids get the skills and opportunities they need to succeed. They're where families come together to enjoy a musical, cheer for our teams, talk with teachers, and build trusted relationships. Strong public schools create strong communities.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
You decide to buy new flooring, you want it installed right away. Hi, Steve Carper from O Street Carpet. With our huge in-stock supply of carpet, tile, and vinyl, wood, and laminate flooring. You buy today and we'll install it right away. While other stores don't deliver that kind of service, we do. In fact, if you'd have purchased your flooring last week at O Street, you'd be enjoying it today.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street and ostreetcarpet.com.
My name was Alana. I was 6 years old, and I got diagnosed with cancer. I come to St. Jude for treatment.
After her last treatment on December the 4th, I was just kind of having a conversation with her, letting her know, Alana, you did awesome. I'm so proud of you. You fought, you accepted whatever was happening, you went with it. And her words to me were, Mommy, thank you so much for helping me get through this. She said, I could not have done this without you. This was very hard. And I couldn't even hold my tears because when I think about it, I would not have been able to get through this without St. Jude. And so once we became part of the St. Jude family, everything was okay. Thank you, St. Jude, for helping me get her through this because I wouldn't have been able to do it without them.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Every 2 minutes, a woman in the U.S. is diagnosed with breast cancer. And in that split-second moment in time, her life changes forever. The toll of breast cancer is great. The need to support those who are battling the disease today is even greater. And that's why when others look away, Susan G. Komen leans in. We're fighting alongside patients because we know one moment can change a lifetime. Fighting breast cancer takes funding for research to discover the next new treatment, providing access to quality and affordable health care, and people willing to take action by raising funds and raising their voice to advocate for others. United by Hope.
This is the Real Red Reaction Show. Phones are open now, 402-489-1240.
Back here on Real Red Reaction, we're powered by Slim Chickens. Will Wilson is here. Jeff Moats hanging out. Bill Dolman is in. Elijah Herbal. JP, did he wander off down the road?
Yeah, he did. He had a procedure done. He's getting better.
Okay. Well,
yeah, so he's relaxing.
Good. Appreciate him coming in. Appreciate Mark Kranak. Totally appreciate him popping in. Saturday is saying nice work, Schmidt, with the 20-foot ceilings. Appreciate that.
No, they're not 20-foot ceilings. Schmidt's just that short.
Right.
Well, if you got 20-foot ceilings, put in a basketball hoop.
Yeah, there's a good idea.
Why? So I can throw it into you? No,
just like
big guys.
Bounce it off the wall and dunk it like Bill Murray in Stripes.
And break his ankle again.
Got a German Shepherd downstairs trying to break out.
And then throw the ball out the window out of frustration.
Let's hear from Matt Rule. We'll gauge his level of frustration. A lot of frustration for Nebraska fans in that first half. Better second half. But that O-line looks better with Emmett toting the football, that's for sure. Here is Matt Rule, post-game Purdue with KFOR, KFORnow.com.
Credit to Purdue. We knew they'd come to compete after they've had 2 tough weeks. Got back home playing at home. Changed up their defense, put 4 back at the edge. I hope he's okay. I think he's one of the best players we'll play against this year. I have so much respect for the way he plays, and so it looked like he got banged up. So I'm not sure what that was. It was a close game in the fourth quarter. The narrative is always we can't win close games. It was a close game. We won it. So it just it didn't look like a close game at the end, but we made the plays in the fourth quarter to win the game, and proud of the guys for that.
What do you think of your team's response the last quarter and a half of that game? Not only the response, but how they played.
Well, I thought the defense, was terrific throughout. But the offense punted twice. They just up and down the field, just a couple of crucial penalties hurt us, and then obviously if you're able to make some, so you're down inside the 35, I think, I don't know how many times we crossed the 35-yard line. Those are, 3, I think 1 missed and 2 bad snap that led to blocked field goals, right, which were unfortunate. I love the fact that they didn't flinch. They didn't flinch. At halftime, I told them this is exactly where I felt like our team needed to be, to come off the heartbreak of last week, a game that nothing went right in terms of like one play goes right, might win that game last week. To come back, I don't know what the narrative, I don't know what's been like around here before that, but a lot of times teams, they come off that heartbreak and they don't play great the next week that I've been a part of. So I thought for our team to bounce back, Tommy tried to go, he couldn't go. Guys are down, guys step up. We played a lot of guys today. And things not go exactly right. I thought it was exactly what we needed, to be quite honest. I'm glad it ended up 28-10, but that was a game we had to fight for, and guys had to make plays, and had some tough calls go against us in the first half, and the guys. In fact, if anything, they were telling me to keep my composure. So appreciate those guys.
What kind of lift did Emmett give you in the second half?
Yeah, I think Emmett made some big time plays, making some guys miss. And then after we had the hold, the block in the back of the hold, and then I got the 15-yarder. It comes out on the screen and he's pushing the O-lineman to get him going forward. And so I thought, really, you talk about crucial plays. It's that, and then it's the 4th down off tackle run by, at the goal line, to go for it on 4th down. So, just proud of those guys. Not that Corey obviously gave us a real lift on offense with some of the speed sweeps and the reverses. And, people are really, when he's out there, people are defending us differently because of his speed and his explosiveness.
Just the overall execution on offense in the second half, when you got across onto their side of the field, what keyed it being so much different after?
It was just 3rd downs in the first half. We were 0 for 5 in the first half on 3rd downs, and 2 of them we ran it to get it to get to 4th and short. Because we were planning on going for it. The one we went to 4th and short, and we false started. Okay, the second one I can't remember what happened. We didn't get it right, so we just said, hey, you know what? Let's throw it for 2 downs. Let's give Dylan 2 chances. Moving forward, and again, if it's 9-0 at the half, you're kind of disappointed in your red zone offense, but it's not quite. That was what it was. And so we just made the shift at halftime. Like, all right, we're going to go for it. And I thought the play were in the red zone where Dylan found Jamal. He showed patience. He knew what was there and made a play. Very, very locked in. Very locked in. I think our guys last week felt a lot of pressure to win, and not in a bad way. That's not a soft thing. Like, they just know people are counting on them to win. And I think this week they said, forget it. Let's just go compete. Let's just go play. And I thought guys wanted to play. And then they came out. You think about it, right? They came out and they went down the field and scored and kicked a field goal. And but I thought our guys went right back down there. So, about everything that could go wrong went wrong in the first half. Emmett's touchdown gets called back. We didn't touch the guy. We didn't touch him. We did not touch him. So it wasn't about whether he's behind the line or not. We run at the guy, we avoid him, so we didn't touch him. And so they know that they executed that play and it gets called back. And so obviously that some guys could be frustrated, when they know, man, we can't do anything right. But I thought the guys responded, and I was really proud. So that, again, that's what I said to them at halftime. Is this is exactly the type of game we need. We needed to go out there and win the game at the very end of the game. And again, that's about halfway through the fourth quarter. That game was won.
The kicking game, was there a specific distance that you felt good about sending John Cole out at, and what did you see on those missing blocks?
Yeah, the first one he missed, right? It just missed. He's about 50-50 from the 15-yard line, but he's also about 50-50 from the 45-yard line. He's a young developing kicker who's got a big leg and had a great week of practice. He just missed that first one. The second two are just bad snaps. Those balls are in the ground, right? So you can't put those on them. And those weren't like blocks per se where we're not protecting. Those were bad snaps. The first one, we had one snapper in, then we made the change, went to the other snapper. It's a bad snap. So all of those guys, and as I said down the stretch, man, they got to come out of their head. They got to start playing from right here with passion and belief in themselves. I know it sounds corny, but it's not. And, even the extra points at the end, all of a sudden we had good snaps. And so it might not be for everybody, but we are just a growing team. We're just growing. All right. So people can spend all their time trying to think what we're not. I choose to see what we are. We're getting a little bit better in different areas. We went on the road after a devastating performance. A devastating loss last week, and we found a way to win. And I couldn't be prouder. It wasn't the best football. We have a lot to fix, but I'm proud of the heart of that team.
Just to be clear, one of the snaps was one guy and the other was the other guy.
I believe so. Yeah. If I'm wrong, sometimes you guys are more right than me, but we made the switch. I thought the first was Flaggy, the second one was Watucky. That's okay. I thought so. Yeah.
Matt, what about your running? What are your thoughts on how they stepped up and slowed down what Purdue was trying to do?
Yeah, I thought the boys came out to play. There was a little bit like that one drive. It was a little bit of leaky first down. So they were in a 2nd and 5 and allowing them to continue to play. I thought what was really great on defense today was, when Tommy couldn't quite go, he came up, we thought he was going to be able to go. He warmed up. We thought maybe he could go and just still not right quite there yet. So, all right, we turned to Sierra. Sierra gets banged up. Jeremiah goes in. We're out there at times in crucial downs. Now we got Jeremiah out there. We got Mario Buford out there. And I thought they played pretty well. Willis McGahee had some big plays. So there's a lot of, young players contributing, in that. But that allows you, because Tony can trust those guys in the back, it allows them to, play the run and put guys up there in the box. And I thought, we didn't give up any big ones. I think Maccabee's a heck of a player. That number 45 is a heck of a player, and that's a well-coached O-line. They run outside zone as well as anybody, 250 yards or whatever it was, 240, whatever, last 260 last week. First, I don't know what they finished with rushing, but I thought our guys did pretty well, 50. So I thought our guys did pretty well.
It's not just this game. There's been quite a few penalties in a lot of big teams. From your thought process, is there a conversation that they need to have, the league needs to have with teams about blocking on the perimeter or covering your receivers, or and then what did they tell you at the end about doing that?
Yeah, I got a flag. I threw my headset. Now I was on the white, so I was under the impression on the white I could throw my headset. He said the referee said I looked at him, so he knew I was upset. But obviously he didn't throw the flag, so I was just mad, So I'm not here to complain about officials. I'll turn them in. I'll get the responses on Monday or on Sunday. I think we had a tough go of it last week. And, here's what I know. Someone's going to have to start to fight for Nebraska. All right. So I'm here to fight for Nebraska. And so Troy does, our AD will fight for Nebraska in that way. But, I wanted the fellows to see me out there fighting for them today. And I think that's my third penalty ever. So, I got one in the NFL because I was in the white and the guy ran me over. I think I got one when we got a blindside block at Oklahoma State. There's not been many, right? So I don't speak disrespectfully to the officials, all that, but I did throw my headset. And but I thought I was okay because I was in the white. With that being said, it's a penalty. He called it a penalty, and Emmett went ahead and made me right. So I felt bad. I don't want to affect the game in that regard. But, penalties are penalties. I just, we're not an undisciplined team. We're doing things right. We're doing high level things, and we're getting, when I get caught, I'm going to stand up for it. But again, that's a hard job. I'm not here to. That's a hard job. I can't imagine how hard that is, and I respect the men who do it. So.
Maybe you're the pregame scene with the Oklahoma drill where you were running your team kind of through a live drill. What was your thought? I mean, you were out there leading them in front of everybody, kind of hitting full contact hitting. What was the thought of that?
No thought.
Is that something you have done before?
Yeah, well, we did it way back when, but I was just excited to go. Today was about us. Today was about us coming out to compete, and I wanted to see the guys come out and fly around and compete. So I just called a couple guys out, and they were ready for it.
One of those guys was last year trade. He's the guy that was looking blocker on that fourth down. I don't know if you've seen that play, but what he basically took out their two best defenders.
Yeah, did he really? That's awesome. And we ran that play in the middle of the week, and he hit Marquise Buford. Marquise made the tackle, good on good, and we showed it in front of the whole team. So that makes me so happy if that's true, because Barrett's one of those kids. I mean, I wish I could expound, but when I expound, sometimes it turns into all these other narratives. So I'll just say this: he's one of those guys who, there's this, as they grow, they go from trying to do everything right to trying to kick someone's tail in the right way. And along the way, they have to block out all the noise of everyone telling them what they're doing wrong. And so Barrett's someone who tries to do everything right. And hopefully it sounds like, and that's a day one training camp play. Like we tried Carter over the top. We try, I'm just saying, in all seriousness, if you look at the level of creativity, and again, we're not perfect yet. We're so young and things are different. No one's asked me about Gunner. I love that. None of you guys asked me about Gunner. We went with our third string left tackle on the road against Purdue and played with a third string left tackle. I'm fired up for him because I didn't notice him. And I'm not saying that in a negative way towards you guys. I'm waiting. I didn't notice him. I just kind of was out there. I never said hey, Sag, chip him. So I'm proud of the young guys, right? We handed the ball off to Carter Nelson on the 1 yard line to go over the top. It didn't quite go in, but we're just trying to trust in the guys, and you're going to wake up someday, and all those young guys are going to be out there. Ja'Cory, they're flying around, and so I'm fired up about that. But I think Gunner played pretty well. That's a big storyline because when they move forward to an edge rusher. When they did that in pregame, I was like, damn, that's a good move by them. Sorry, Mitch. No, it's not by him today. I'll talk to him on Monday. Yeah, I mean, he's not off the team, but he's not here today. All right, thanks, guys.
Rule his post game with Purdue. It's Real Red Reaction on KFOR, KFORnow.com. Can find us also on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Real Red Reaction, YouTube, KFOR, Facebook, and Twitter. And then Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Elijah Herbal, Jeff Moats, Will Wilson, Bill Dolman, Chris Schmidt. Elijah, I know you got family obligations. Final thought or two from you, bud, before you bounce out.
Sorry, Elijah.
Oh, we're good. We're good. A win is a win is the main observation, as Matt Rule kind of said, to bounce back from what happened last week. That's one thing you don't quite think about, the emotional hangover fatigue of everyone telling you that you're great, and then you go out there and lose, and now you're going to have a tiring week of practice. That's what it's going to be whenever you have things to clean up. For Nebraska to go out there on the road, first road test for Raiola, he performed well. You go out and do the thing. Does Nebraska have a semblance of special teams? No. You know it for a fact now moving forward. You can game plan for it. You can expect it. Schmidt is dying laughing about something.
Oh, someone with a Nebraska Twitter account just says ISIS has a new leader.
Oh, yeah. We all saw that
Matt
one.
Foley.
Wow. Ed.
Oh, I said Matt Foley. Forgive me.
Yeah, Ed Foley, dare I say, welcome to the hot seat. I don't mean that. The special teams are really, really bad. That's the big complaint that I have today. Everything else, I think Nebraska showed some heart. They came back. They performed. The rushing attack didn't look great early. They found something. Nebraska overcame red zone struggles. Nebraska overcame penalties. They overcame a lot today. The one thing that didn't show any ability to overcome was the special teams. Is that going to get cleaned up this year? My take is no, probably not, but at least you know now. You know what you have on special teams, and it's bad. You can try to game plan around that. Will that cost Nebraska this year? Yes, I'm sure. Good thing Nebraska's expectation this year is not a college football playoff. Nebraska's expectation is 7 or 8 wins, and what I saw today is good enough to get you to 7 or 8. Are there going to be painful ones down the stretch this season? Yes, I'm sure. Are there going to be moments where the special teams bites you? Yes, I'm sure. Nebraska is not a perfect team. They don't need to be a perfect team this year. I think they have the pieces that they need to get to 7-5 or 8-4. That's what today showed me. A win's a win. You're one step closer to 7 or 8, and that's a major step up for where Nebraska's been.
Elijah, be good, brother. Thank you much. There's Elijah Herbal. We'll be back with him Monday.
Tomorrow morning.
Well, that's true. Tomorrow morning with the Average Joe Sports Show live pod.
Yeah, I'll get that link
10:30.
made so people can be ready for it tomorrow. I'm
10:30.
actually out.
Yep, 10:30. All right, there he goes. Will Wilson's with us. Chris Schmidt, Bill Dolman, Jeff Moats. We'll probably, what are we thinking, 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock.
All right, Moats is
Because I got
to eat it down. He's going to grab the gavel.
I'm going to road trip. I got a road trip to Omaha, so I got to
4, 8,
be out here
9,
by
12,
4.
4 to get in. There's so many of you still on the stream. We appreciate that. Also on the YouTube channel. Guys, and Matt Rule, the way he put it was pretty good, with it being another tight situation. You're playing really rough football, and for him to frame it like he did and kind of approach it as a teacher, and I know that's what he prides himself on, as being a teacher and educator. Yes, a coach, but that probably connected with those guys. They just kind of went back to work, to their credit, and found a way, Bill, to fix the second half. I mean, you could have named your score today. If Nebraska was on their game, that's a 65-7, 10 type beatdown that Notre Dame. I think that's what's curious to Nebraska fans. At what point do they put it all together, where defense, offense, run game, pass game, kicking game, dare I say, is all on point? Because it better be a week from today.
Well, I had 65-5 as my prediction. I think I would have been dead on with that had there not been that penalty on the opening fourth down try. I like what he has to say about the way his team regroups in the second half, and he's right about that. We should be appreciative of the win. I'm especially heartened by what Nebraska did in response to Purdue's first points, because they went down on the field, and I was counting like Count Chocula here in the Schmitty's house, going, this is a 5-minute drive to open up the second half. This is a 6-minute drive to second half. 7-minute drive, 8-minute drive. Now, it didn't result in a touchdown, like Northern Iowa, but they took control early of the second half, and Nebraska allowed the field goal, and then it goes right back and then scores right away. And I think that was really, really important, that they did not allow Purdue's, because Purdue did what it looked like. They just took that Northern Iowa game plan, that 10-minute drive, and said, this is what we can do against this defense. And they applied it to start the second half. I'm thinking Nebraska's got to get a 3-and-out here, get the ball, not give it more than 4 minutes time of possession, get it back and get the first points on the board. That didn't happen. But they did respond with a scoring drive, and they did respond with a little bit more pressure defensively. Once they got the lead, the pressure that Nebraska's put on Purdue, and again, look, it's relative. It's Purdue. It wasn't Illinois. It's not Rutgers next week. Purdue's having a down year, and there's already talk that they may make a change with Walters, right, and not give him a chance to build his program. But for Nebraska to answer back after giving up that long drive to start the second half, and then really control everything from there on out, as bad as the first 30 minutes were, leaving that thought and taste in our mouth going into the second half. I think if you look at this in the second half on its own, forgetting the first half, you say, you know what, they played pretty well on the road, and they got the win. It's just that first half was such an atrocious affront, not just to Nebraska, but to the game of football and most of our sensibilities, that it's hard to appreciate what Nebraska did on the road to win the game in the manner in which they did.
I mean,
you have more appreciation, don't you? And Mozi, you're a movie buff. I mean, what Bill just said, the visual representation of this was Billy Madison, where Billy goes into detail about the pokey little puppy,
the missing dog,
and the moderator's like, what you have done here has made us all stupid. May God have mercy on your soul. That's what it felt like watching that first half. Where
Simple no could have done, but thank you.
Yeah, right. That's what
You know,
this first half was, man.
there was just no flow. I mean, Purdue and even them, they had no flow whatsoever on offense. Nebraska struggled. I mean, the defense, I mean, they did some good things, and then they had some questionable things that, where they could have made stops and they didn't. But, Purdue going up 3-0, and then it's like the light switch turned on, and Nebraska's offense came back and played well. You heard Matt Rule say, and I'm paraphrasing him, they're a growing team. And I think when you hear the head coach say that they're a growing team, yes, I think that's accurate. I think he's right. They are a growing team. I think there's a lot to be thankful. If you're a Nebraska fan, I think you need to be thankful that right now you're 4-1. The Colorado game, even though Nebraska didn't score a touchdown in the second half of that game, they still held on and won. I mean, granted that's a win against Colorado, but it could have been a lot worse. I mean, the record could be a different situation right now. And I think what he said about this team growing is pretty accurate. I think that's something that everybody has to kind of sit back and take a look and say, yeah, he brings up a good point. This is a growing football team. You got a lot of weapons, you got a lot of talent. You're trying to get that all coming together and gel to where you're going into big matchups and playing great. And Mark Cranack brought up a good point earlier in our show, is that do we need to kind of shorten up, who's out there? We're not trying to get everybody in. I know we saw Heinrich Harburg a few times today. You can still utilize Heinrich in a few plays or a few spots when necessary. I'm not saying cut him out totally, but the running back room, how many running backs does Nebraska use in a game? 3-4 different types of running backs? Is that something that you want to rely on? That kind of gums up everything, because you want to look at what your guys have been doing in that position. I think Emmett Johnson today is a prime example of a guy that can run the ball. Ramir Johnson is a guy that I always liked. Ramir Johnson, just simply because of his sheer speed and the way he was very shifty, even early on in his career. And I know he's had a few setbacks with injuries. But again, this is a growing football team. I like what he said there, and I think that's something that people need to keep in mind. Now, you got Rutgers coming in next Saturday. It's homecoming. It's a big game. You're going to have people in town. It's Hall of Fame weekend. So there's a lot going on, a lot of pageantry. You want to put out a pretty good product. And I think you go to work first thing, right when you get off the plane from Lincoln or from West Lafayette back in Lincoln tonight. You start to go to work and you look at some things, you look at video, and then you work at some things tomorrow, and then you really buckle down starting Monday and for sure Tuesday to make sure, okay, we got everything up to snuff, up to speed on what we need to have to execute against Rutgers. Defensively speaking, how are we going to do, or what are we going to do to improve on some things that we probably should have done to Purdue right away and not let them get any major yardage or anything like that, even preventing that last touchdown. But what do you need to do to stop Rutgers offensively? So I think with what's happening and what Coach Rule said during his presser, I think is pretty accurate in terms of the growth of this football team and this program.
He's very real about just the fact that they are growing. You just want to see a little more consistency. And
people want results right away. We're in a society, we're in an age that we want immediate results. And in some cases, you're not going to see that happen. It's very rare where you get immediate results. But when you're trying to rebuild a program that's been on hard times now consistently, and I'm not including the Pelini era necessarily because he won 75% of his games, but when you've seen a program that's been on hard times, it's not going to be an overnight success. But I think with what Matt Rule has done so far to this point, it's a good step in that direction where they need to get to.
Well, good second half for Nebraska. MIA first half. I know we've hit that multiple times, but Nebraska quit jacking around. The second half came out. They responded. They took control. That's important. We'll hear from Dylan Raiola here in a little bit, but interested to get your thoughts moving forward on if you'll see Nebraska settle, and what I mean by settle in with the RB1. And I want to go back to Emmett Johnson. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard, should it? To say, all right, this is the guy that pairs best with the offensive line. Let's run him and keep running him. Don't forget about Ramir. Don't forget about Dowdell. But tell you what, man, Emmett, it's not even close with how productive and efficient the run game is, man, when he's in there.
Yeah, and like you guys said, it's not a coincidence that when we started getting him the rock, we started scoring. Things started going great. So I think that is a great example right there that you see that, and you know who should get the ball first next week. Now, I've been thinking a lot about next week, and I know a lot of people think Rutgers should have lost last night, but they didn't, and they're probably our biggest test of the year so far. So, and I look at the first half, how we could barely beat a really bad Purdue team who is probably going to lose their head coach this season. And I just worry. I wonder how this team is going to look against a good opponent. Now, Illinois, are they a good opponent? I don't know. We're going to find out tonight. But I'm curious about next week and what Rutgers is going to look like. But I'm with you. You go with Emmett and see where it goes from there. I like Dowdell in the red zone close to the goal line. I think you bring him out for that. And Ramir's just a great player, to dump the ball off to. He can run routes. So I'm with you on that. I think Emmett needs to be the guy that gets that rock. But I'm worried about next week. I don't know what Rutgers is going to be like.
Here's what
they're going to be like Illinois.
Here's what I'm going to say about next week. Bill, jump in here. Listen, Nebraska might be underdogged at home. Nebraska may not be a better team than Rutgers. Fine, but go play good football. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But don't be sloppy on penalties. Don't be a nightmare with the kicking game,
missed tackles,
and don't be horrible at tackling in a phone booth football game. You've had a physical game last Friday. It was a road game where Purdue's a lot of things, but I would call them. They attempt to be physical. That's how they want to play ball, with their run game being the emphasis. So put your big boy pants on and go let it all hang out. I mean, that's what I think you want to see if you're a Nebraska fan here next Saturday at 3. And just come out ready and finish strong. Like, it's been too choppy.
Mm-hmm. Well, as one of the listeners points out, Rutgers quarterback is a guy who was at Minnesota and has beaten Nebraska a couple of times already, Kaliakmanis, it's just so odd with all the transition of this guy was over here, now he's over here, and what impact will that have when he's over here when they play over there? I don't know. But look, I think Northern Iowa, to a certain extent, gave Illinois a bit of a blueprint on how to attack Nebraska's defense. That long drive, to me, just continues to stand out. I think that gave Purdue an idea of what they could do because they do have a ground game and they can run the football, but they just don't have the personnel to maintain it the way Illinois was able to do that and take Nebraska completely out of rhythm. I think Rutgers is going to look at Northern Iowa. They're going to look heavily at the Illinois game plan. They've got an experienced quarterback, and they're going to see some of the things that Purdue was able to do in its ground game, not in its passing game. Look, Hudson Card, that there was questions there was whether or not he was going to be starting today. They went with him, and he didn't look very good. Nebraska, got some pressure on him. They wore down that Purdue offensive line in a way that, again, I mentioned it earlier. Nebraska's offensive line has done a nice job of protecting Dylan Raiola all throughout this season for the most part.
I agree, Bill. I really do agree with that, simply because, we've seen in past years, even going back to even with a little bit of Adrian Martinez at quarterback, that the pass protection has not been spectacular or far from superb. But
Adrian would agree with that.
Yeah. But, I agree. I think his pass protection has just been unbelievable. He's had time to actually get set and look and throw to someone and make dime throws downfield. I think they have really improved that aspect of the offense more so than anything else, is that pass protection. And that's really a tremendous job by the line coaches and making sure that offense continues to get better and better each week.
Well, and I would imagine Dominic told Donnie, as I said on Chris's Hail Varsity show yesterday, you will be really good at pass pro. All right, Uncle Donnie. All right. We don't care about what you do for these running backs You're going to protect this guy. All right. It's going to be good for all of us down the road.
I'll say this too about Sat. We'll take a timeout. We'll hear from Dylan Raiola here on Real Red Reaction. 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Many of you have just jumped in the stream with comments and input. Really appreciate that. Hail Varsity YouTube, Real Red Reaction YouTube, KFOR Facebook and Twitter, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Our friends at Slim Chickens, Hooksy and Company, man, they do it right with all your chicken needs, chicken fingers, chicken wings. Of course, the old chicken and waffles are legendary. They're
the grilled strips. The grilled strips are the best.
They are just phenomenal. 84th and Pine Lake, and 84th and Old Cheney, 14th and Pine Lake. Both locations for you to get your Slim Chickens order. Salads are incredible as well. So make sure you thank those folks that help support us here with Real Red Reaction, Slim Chickens. I'll say this with Nebraska and their ability to run it and stick with the run. I mean, I tried to put myself in Sat's shoes in that first half where, I mean, it's just time to go air raid. Just start throwing the football all the time, every down, because your run game was just getting nothing done. Or if you did try to run it, it was some sort of penalty, or you'd have a nice game, then there'd be a brutal penalty. Nebraska got pretty good at being creative, and it's not a new call, but it was the right call at the right time where they get Barney on the end around. And they've done a really good job of repping that and executing that, where at one point he was averaging 30 a carry, and he had a couple of them. Another touchdown run, and then had the 31-yarder on the opening drive. But I like that Sat went back to the run game, settled in on the run game, and then Nebraska turned to Emmett to run it in the second half, and that stabilized them in the ground game. So when it looked like, all right, you're not able to run the football against the worst rush defense in the country, at least Nebraska didn't oblige and just stop doing it. They kept at it. That was easier to say than to do, quite frankly, in my little mind, because I had seen enough as we went into the second quarter. We're out on the patio. Dolman's telling me to put the brick down. Don't throw it. It's not the TV's fault. And listen, I don't put on my big red glasses that often, but you're sitting here, you're watching, you're like, how the hell is this happening? Moving on to the second half, you felt better, and they got it together, which is to their credit. We'll take a timeout, quick timeout. Will, how are we doing spot-wise, Big Cat?
Yeah, we'll just have to take a break here, and when we come back, we'll have about 6 minutes.
Okay, can we squeeze Dylan in on that or not?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Timeout. Dylan Raiola coming up. It's Real Red Reaction on KFOR. We're powered by Slim Chickens.
What's the radon level at your home? Don't know? Well, find out with a call to Bryant Air Conditioning and Heating. Hi, folks. Greg Sharp here, the voice of the Huskers. Make sure your home is safe with a radon check from Bryant. If you've already tested, ask Bryant for a free estimate for mitigation. Once completed, you'll get a report showing how much safer your home is now. When it comes to radon, call Bryant. 467-1111 for testing and mitigation. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. We do whatever it takes.
Patriot Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The folks with the stars and stripes in their truck and patriotism in their tool belt. You know it's time to get your furnace checked when pumpkin spice permeates everything we see, we smell, and taste. Call Patriot Plumbing, Heating, and Air to schedule your $98 furnace check and get your system service before the rush of Hallow Thankmas finds you stuck in the cold. Call Patriot Plumbing, Heating, and Air at 464-7411. The choice of autumn-loving patriots everywhere.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it. 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
Eileen talks about her experience with 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
A lot of gross kitchen in the beginning, cracked formica, bad floor, ripped linoleums, and I decided, to heck with this. I want it done. And I found an ad from 3 Day Kitchen and Bath. I called him. Dave brought all of his stuff. We talked about what I wanted. I chose the materials. It was very easy. He came in. He did what he said. They did it in the time frame that they said, at the cost that they said. His crew was delightful. We came home. Everything had been cleaned up. I would say people are silly not to do 3 Day Kitchen and Bath. I just love it. It's just like I moved into a new home.
It's about time.
3 days or less
at 3 Day Kitchen and Bath.
For all your remodeling needs, call Good Guy Construction at 435-3355.
There's just nothing like live music. It has the ability to motivate, inspire, and enhance a moment, a night, and a lifetime like nothing else. Treat yourself to a live music escape or give someone you love the gift of a concert experience. Check out the complete lineup of upcoming shows at PinnacleBankArena.com and review the list of acts scheduled to perform outdoors this season at PinewoodBowlTheater.com. Behold the joy of live music and immerse yourself in spectacular.
Get your thoughts on now. The Real Red Reaction Show is unfiltered at KFOR.
Back with you here on Real Red Reaction. Chris Schmidt, Will Wilson, Jeff Moats, Bill Dolman. Big thanks to Elijah Herbal, JP from 96 Kicks, Mark Kranak. All popping by. Let's get into Dylan Raiola's thoughts after the ball game.
Yeah, I mean, happens in practice. You know, we have one of the best defenses in the country, and sometimes practice doesn't go our way, and we just stay the course and we keep grinding, and we know that eventually, one's gonna pop, and it's really just our motto. It just takes one play, and I couldn't tell you what one play got us going, but once we got it going, we couldn't be stopped.
What's that play called? The first touchdown pass you threw the ball. Coach Bull said you kind of knew it was going to be open. Can you walk through that particular play? What was on it?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's always open, but play clock was actually going down. I was supposed to go on a double cadence and actually switched it and went on a silent count because it got pretty loud in there and just didn't want any penalties. So we actually just didn't do the second cadence and brought him in and Jamal just he ran his route and I found him and he made a play.
What did Corey and Emmett in the second half kind of give you?
They gave us a spark. I mean, kind of the spark that we needed, and they do that all the time. So we weren't shocked or surprised when it happened, but they got us going, and I mean, Jacory's a young guy, doesn't know anything but having fun. So that's all you saw out there, and Emmett has a lot of fun too. So I mean, it was just a lot of fun.
Dylan, you speak on the protection you got today. It looked like the line gave you plenty of time to make your reads and get some of those balls out.
Yeah, O-line protected great. I think they work so hard during the week and watch so much tape that when they get in the game, it's nothing to them, and they've seen every look possible. So I always feel safe behind that O-line, and we were able to push the ball down the field because of the time. So
Dylan, we'll talk a little bit about the resilience that you guys have to bounce back. What was this week like for you, and how confident were you that you would bounce back?
Yeah, this week was just all about us and then getting back to who we were. We got punched in the mouth last week, and it was just all about our response. And couldn't ask for a better response of going 0-0 in the first half, and kind of like, I don't know, everybody was probably like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Like, here we go again. But we trust each other so much. We've been through so much hard things together, and a 0-0 score going in the half didn't phase us. Got in there, rallied the troops, and we came out swinging. So resilient group, and we're going to keep going.
That was Dylan Raiola. Some final thoughts here as we'll wind it down, get you into the rest of your Saturday. USC is getting slapped by Wisconsin. Wow. We are all cheering for Georgia tonight. Can we nod and say, yeah, hit that parlay, Schmidt and Elijah?
I'm with you guys. Yeah, I'm with you.
Sure.
So,
why not?
Win some money.
Nebraska stopped the run today. Nebraska ran the football today. Nebraska got after the quarterback today. MJ Sherman with a sack and a half, and James Williams, who sometimes, at least by the same name, participates in this chat, had 2 sacks today. And you know what? Good on Nebraska for getting that road win. And you heard it from Dylan, Bill, as they were unfazed. And Rule said the team needed a game like this. It was a close ball game, and they got it figured out.
You know, it's amazing that I think we've completely just forgotten that Dylan Raiola is a true freshman. Not even 20 yet. He's everything that he was advertised to be in terms of a player. You know, he sounds young at times in his press conferences, and I can't wait to see his growth in that area too. But he does not play like one. The only time I've seen him really play like a freshman was late in that Illinois game, but then I think everybody kind of played off their game at the end of that, and that wasn't on him at all. But I think, and I think somebody even wrote it as I was saying this, better appreciate the guy at quarterback. It really is remarkable watching him play. And I remember when Tommy Frazier came to town, and it took 6 weeks for Tom to put him in there. And Tommy was pretty special too. And you kind of forgot that he was a precocious freshman out there. He was a precocious leader, but Dylan's a special guy. And to see the way he leads that team, the way he's able to deliver the football, Nebraska's got something. Regardless of how pretty the win was, how ugly the first half was, all of that, I just come away with, and we're able to appreciate somebody that's really deserves to be one of the most talked about players in all of college football right now.
Motzi, quick thought.
You know, Bill, I agree. He is a special football player. You know, he's 19. He's a month older than my son, hard to believe that he's already 19. And seeing that kid out there playing football, looking like he's a seasoned veteran at this level of football and what he can do, and only being a true freshman is amazing. He's got a very bright future ahead of him. I think the future does look bright for this football program. And I don't want to use the analogy of, taking baby steps. I think we're beyond that point with this football team and what they can do. I think they're in a better position than where they were a year ago. And I know I said the same thing on this very program at the same time when they were one win away from becoming bowl eligible. I still think they can become bowl eligible. I think that's your ultimate goal, number one, is to get to a bowl win or a bowl game and maybe a bowl win. If they get to that point. But I also think you got to be playing your best football, win or lose. If you lose games, close games, I know that's been kind of the mantra of what Nebraska football has been the last several years. They've lost close games. They've been so close. But, do it with a sense of purpose to where you're going out and you're playing hard and something just doesn't, the other team may be better. But I ultimately say, go out there and play your best football every single week, and you got some games that you can win. I think Rutgers is going to be, as Will, I think, alluded to here a little while ago, is going to be probably the biggest challenge so far this year. We said that about Colorado. We've said that about Illinois now, and here we are. We're now, after 5 weeks of football, you got Rutgers coming into town, and then maybe after that, the next big challenge is going to be Indiana, then Ohio State, and then things maybe easing up a little bit, although Wisconsin, USC, and then you look ahead to Iowa. Those are going to be games that Nebraska could probably battle. But again, I think the ultimate goal is going to get to that 6-win mark and become bowl eligible. And then you can breathe a little bit. And if you get your 7 wins, if you get 7 wins, great. If you get 8, terrific. If you get 9, fantastic. It's, you got to set the bar to where you got to get the team to and then make the next leap forward the following year.
Well, close it out, Big Cat.
Yeah, we're running out of time, but I'll just say happy we got the win on to Rutgers. And again, I'm eyeing that Las Vegas Bowl, Dolman.
Love it. Vegas Bowl it is.
Are.
Catch the Average Joe Sports Show live tomorrow. We'll be on at 10:30 on the stream. The Average Joe YouTube channel. Thanks to all of you for checking us out on KFOR, KFORnow.com. And we'll be back at you with our different shows. Morning Hookup, at 10 on Monday, and Hail Varsity back at you at 4 on Monday afternoon. Have a good one. You all right?
Yeah, we're all good.